the Mission Advance Conference, at which I learned about the NCD process. We were at a point in our Corps, we had been there for 5 years. This was the year after getting the advisory board and funding and a lot of other priorities in order, we were ready to really start focusing on church growth. And I had not even heard of NCD prior to learning about it. And it was actually Lee Marest, who we had hired in a youth ministry role, who had had some experience or heard about NCD and said, wow, are you going to this conference? And he said, I really think you should. Well, he was new, and we wanted to empower him in his role, so I said, absolutely, I'll go. Well, I had no idea what it was that I was going for, but the timing was perfect because it was the next agenda item for us in terms of our core development, was really focusing on the growth and health of the church. It was wonderful.
I had always been interested in church development, so it was sort of a natural, I came with it with a natural sense to begin with. And when I first got here, knowing that they wanted to grow, knowing that they wanted to have a strong youth ministry, I wanted to start with the congregation because that was where I believed it needed to start. And so we actually already had started the process. We had, in some ways, looked at the congregation and said, well, how do we get them more involved? What kinds of things do we need to do to connect them with the mission? And so
it really was a turning point in our Corps when, while I was in the process of the different sessions, just lights continued to go on in my mind and in my understanding that this was the direction. As a Corps officer, I'm often challenged by the many things that are important. To be able to focus on one thing as it relates to growing the health and well-being of your Corps was a heaven sent.
Once we returned from the missions conference, Major Joyce and I were very, very excited because now we felt like we had the support of the territory and we had materials now we could present to the congregation. Now, because we had already, in some sense, started the process, we had already started small groups at that time. We were already talking about how to integrate the congregation into the rest of the services that we were already providing. This ended up giving us a little bit more of a plan. So at that point, we started to slowly unveil what this was all about. We started from the standpoint, look, we're already kind of heading in this direction, folks, so this is not an entirely new thing for us. However, now we have some guidelines and steps to kind of go by, and we have also an objective examination, if you will, or objective survey that we'll be doing to help us to kind of give us a better idea of where we're really at. So it's not just from a subjective standpoint, but now we have tools to help us out with that.
Then you had a lay person who attended the conference and was looking at it from the position of a lay person, which I love about the NCD process. It's called a lay empowerment tool. And I love the idea as a Corps officer of not only empowering your congregation, but empowering the congregation around a common goal, and that's the health of the church.
Our minimum factor was gift-based ministries. So we explained what that meant, and we allowed them time to ask questions. And I actually asked the question at the end, are you guys comfortable with this? How do you feel about this? And gave them some input as to, how do you think we should even proceed? And then, of course, introducing them even more to the CHT, the church health team as well.
Yeah, well, the folks on the church health team, they have really come together, and there's a diverse group there, people who have been Salvationists for many years, who have been in this church for years. Also people who are just attended. It's a good mix, which I think is so important for a church health team, so that way you you have not only a variety of experiences, of life experiences, but also in relation to the church.
They really allowed me as a soldier of the Corps to take the lead, to work with the people. to help to hear from them, hear their opinion of it, answer their questions. And as we moved forward, we began to choose people as a team. What is the leadership potential in our core? So that's how we kind of worked together. We analyzed our situation together, and then I went out kind of as the voice and said, okay, folks, we would really love to have you on board. Would you like to be a part of this team? This is what it's about. And then as we formed like the church health team, I was able to take them and lead them through some training and really help them feel comfortable with the whole process. And I think it really worked like that because coming from a soldier, you didn't have the intimidation factor. They felt more free to share their frustrations and challenges and really, from a more honest perspective, how they really felt. And then as a soldier myself, I was able to kind of address those. And the beauty of it was, and I think this is key, as part of what we call the pastoral team, when the majors and I had a meeting together, I was able to share that with them. Say, look, this is how they're feeling, this is what they're thinking. And then together, we were able to kind of address the issue. And they were informed, but the people slowly began to feel much more empowered and much more like they had a voice and opinion in the process.
One of the first things they did was begin to preach sermons that were specifically directed toward understanding what spiritual gifts were and what the function of spiritual gifts are in the life of the believer and the life of the church. And then to have Bible studies where believers are meeting at different times throughout the week to study spiritual gifts and exploring their own spiritual gifts. So in terms of the effect that it's having on the core, I think it's really working to unify the members of the core around something more than just their association with the Salvation Army as their church. I'm feeling like their association with individuals within the core has really become solidified. And again, around a common goal. And not necessarily a crisis or something extraordinary like that, but a healthy process, a process of growth and health.
It's not only overflowing into the one area of gift-based ministry, it's overflowing into our holistic small groups. It's taking place in empowering leadership. It's taking place in inspiring worship service. So it's overflowing into these other areas, which is affecting the total health of our church.
When the new Corps officers come in, we want to welcome them. We want to introduce them to the process, let them know where we're at, and find out where their gifts are. Find out where their strong points are and allow them to work within the process, just like everybody works within the process based on their strengths. Everyone takes a role based on their spiritual gifts, their skills and experience. So we approached the new Corps officers in the same way. We said, look, we want you involved, but we want you involved in the way that's going to emphasize your strengths too. We don't want you to take over, but we want you to feel comfortable. What are your skills? What are your experiences? What are your gifts? And thankfully, once again, these new Corps officers came in with that attitude of saying, wonderful, we love what you're doing. Here's our experiences. Here are our gifts. We want to offer that to the body. And approaching it that way, I think, was key. I don't think we could have approached it in any other way and been really as comfortable and as successful as we have.